we basically build a mixture of an AI software engineer and a visual editing environment, which enables anyone to be able to create any software that they can imagine, pretty much. And so what kind of drives us over the long term is that the way that we look at things, less than 1% of the world can create software, and we're trying to use AI to enable the other 99% to be able to create. And so
I mean the 99.
yeah, exactly. And myself included in a lot of ways. It's like I know enough code to be able to be a little bit dangerous.
Well, thanks a lot, Nad, for being here. I'm super happy to welcome you to this KLIMB podcast episode. We're in London, so it changes for me because most of the time it's in Paris. As you are aware, we don't have much time because I, mismatched the the time zone difference and so on. But we do have like 25 minutes something, so we're gonna do our best to cover a lot of topics. So yeah, super happy to just welcome you on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Really, really excited to chat.
So I didn't present you, but you're gonna do it. So just of course, the first thing is it's in the YouTube video title, of course. But can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do today?
Sure. So I'm Nad. I guess easiest way to describe myself is a designer. But my background's in a mixture of design and product management, and I do a little bit of front-end engineering as well. But I'm the founding designer at Lovable.
Okay.
And joined Lovable over a year ago now, so pre-product actually, before we'd launched anything.
Okay.
And at Lovable, we basically build a mixture of an AI software engineer and a visual editing environment, which enables anyone to be able to create any software that they can imagine, pretty much. And so what kind of drives us over the long term is that the way that we look at things, less than 1% of the world can create software, and we're trying to use AI to enable the other 99% to be able to create. And so
I mean the 99.
yeah, exactly. And myself included in a lot of ways. It's like I know enough code to be able to be a little bit dangerous, but not enough to create something truly meaningful or truly enduring, shall we say, as well.
Okay.
And so yeah. I've been working on that for the last year or so, and so far so good, pretty much.
Nice. And so you mentioned that you arrived pre-product. When was the launch of Lovable?
So the official launch was November last year.
Okay.
And so that was 6 months, it's probably 7 or 8 months ago at the time of us talking now. Time flies. But prior to that, we had a wait list for around 9 months where...
Okay.
People could sign up for the wait list, and then we would onboard people one-on-one, and we were using that to get really, really high signal feedback on, different concepts, different directions we were trying to feel out before we arrived at the kind of final product that we launched in November.
Okay.
And like during that waitlist period as well, we basically deleted and rebuilt the entire app like almost 3 times over because we weren't happy with it, and we were just trying to find like a complete step change in what the product could do across the entire stack of user experience through to applied AI engineering through to different bets we were making about like what could or couldn't be possible with AI. And so we had to kind of delete and start from scratch like multiple times over, which is super fun.
Actually, that was one of the questions I had is like, how did you build Lovable? But maybe you're answering a bit the question, because if you did it like 3 times, it's like maybe there is a way to create Lovable.
Yeah, I mean, the philosophy, which I think is very relevant to lots of companies, and if teams aren't thinking like this, I would really encourage them to, is I think if you're building an AI-first product today, you're basically playing a game of trying to figure out what is AI going to get a lot better at. And so it's going to get, exponentially better at certain things all of the time, and that's happening, literally every few months. There's a new breakthrough across a new dimension. And so on the one hand, you're trying to think about that and trying to figure out, like, where can our product get better as AI gets better?
Okay.
And on the other hand, you're trying to build around either any limitations in the AI or workflows that the AI would never kind of cover itself. And so, most AI products are natural language. It's very, very easy to chat and then just get something back. But we also know that you don't want to have a conversation for absolutely everything. And so, for example, with Lovable, you can publish to a custom domain that you own. Yeah. And that's like something that's quite considered that you might want to do with like a dedicated UI or a dedicated flow, rather than like having to have a conversation about things that you're just kind of configuring and stuff like that. And so we try to take this understanding of where is the AI going and how can we build in a way where as the AI gets better, our product gets better, but also how do we build on top of it in a way that it, value adds beyond what AI would do ordinarily as well.
That's nice. And you mentioned something. You said that you're a founding designer. And so can you tell us a bit about this job? Because it's something quite common in some scale-ups and startups, but the job differs from one and the other. So yeah, just to get it.
Yeah, I mean, in Lovable's case, the story was that at the time, so there was the two founders, Anton and Fabian, who both of them are extremely technical, and so extremely technically gifted in their own ways. But they kind of recognized that they don't really understand user experience. Like they know that design is incredibly important, but they're not designers. Okay. And so what they wanted to do was they wanted to find somebody early on the team who A, could fill in that gap, but B, kind of bridge all the other worlds that were equally important for the company, like moving forward. And so they opened up this role, I think, after they'd hired one or two engineers. Okay. And so when I joined, there was Anton and Fabian, the two founders, maybe two other people, and then I joined basically after that. Okay. And so really the goal there was, or the purpose of the role was to fill in those gaps more or less and figure out what design means for the company as well. And so that meant, in our first year, that was a lot of rapid experimentation of, building the product, rebuilding the product, as we kind of talked about a little bit, but focused, mostly on the user experience. And then as we're starting to grow now, it's like, how do we scale design? And so that means a couple of different things. It's how are we scaling how much time we spend on design or how we value it. And so let's go from, scrappy first versions of things through to really kind of high quality things that we truly love and that we think will be really enduring. Okay. And also how are we scaling the team? And so, as we add more engineers into the mix, like we kind of want to scale design alongside that. And so figuring that out as well.
Okay. And how many are you today?
As a company, we're like 30 something people. And then within that, there's probably around 15 to 20 working on product. And within that, there's maybe 12 to 15 engineers and like 2 to 3 designers, depending on how you count, working on core product.
Okay. It's something that's amazed me a lot because we know that, you and I, of course, but a lot of the people, I think, listening to the podcast, we know that Lovable is getting a lot of attention these days. And I know that the CEO is quite transparent about the numbers and so on LinkedIn, without even talking about any number. It's crazy to see this shift in AI companies that have so few number of employees in comparison to the scale of the product they're building.
Yep.
And the amount of revenue also they're making. And it's exactly the case of Lovable, but I know it's the case also of Midjourney and other companies. How do you see this as someone who's part of this journey? And also, what's your take or maybe your vision on those companies having less employees to do maybe same or more? That's my overall question.
Yeah, I think for me, there's probably a couple of perspectives on this that I think a lot about. One is the product side, which is that we've had to do a great degree of unlearning actually about how to build products now that we have AI. And so like pre-AI, I was very much, I subscribed to the kind of lean startup philosophy of pick a niche, solve a really small problem, make a small amount of people really happy. And then, then once you do that, you could either, scale other things that you can build for those people, or you could scale up the people. But either way, start small and then sort of grow from there. But I think the reality is that if you're working with bleeding edge foundation AI models, you don't want to put the models in a box. Mm-hmm. Like you don't want to constrain the models in a way where you're kind of enabling them to do less. You should constrain the user experience around them, and you should constrain, the types of things people are trying to achieve with them. But you should go in with a very open mind because they're capable of doing things that we still haven't figured out yet. And so we adopted this kind of generalist product mindset, I'd say, where we wanted to build a product that could have extremely large impact from day one. Okay. And that's what enables this insane scale.
Okay.
And like you mentioned Midjourney, I think Midjourney is another great example of, had they followed the typical lean startup philosophy, it might have been Midjourney is image creation for stock photographers for weddings, or something super niche, and that's where they would have started. But you would never ever want to, put these foundation models into a box. Like you want to find the limits and see how much they can do. And again, that kind of enables that scale. So on the product side, I think you have to almost think about like infinite markets or infinite use cases if you're like building at the bleeding edge of AI, which is quite counterintuitive, and it's something that like I say, I had to sort of unlearn across a lot of things. So that was one sort of perspective thing that I really kind of learned and have been on a journey with this.
Okay.
And the other is we've been very deliberate about hiring people who might be perceived as generalists in a lot of other companies rather than specialists.
Okay.
And so like as an example, my background's like design, product management, a bit of front end. Christian, our product manager, he's an ex-engineer who then pivoted into product management. Alex, who's one of our technical leads, an engineer, but he pivoted into technical leadership from product management. And so we also have a lot of people who are ex-founders. So they founded companies and then either they've had an exit and then they're looking for the next interesting thing to work on, or maybe they couldn't find the commercial traction and so they looked for a job. But either way, we have a lot of people in the company that are extremely multidimensional. And I think a lot of tech hiring, especially in larger companies, specialisms end up putting people in a box.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you end up, you have
it's much more easier also as someone who's hiring. You need to, you have a need and you want someone that can just fill that need, and that's about it, most of the time.
Exactly. And you have this strange dynamic of kind of title inflation, but also like career ladder inflation, where company A will be like, we need to invest in our people, so we're going to have this ladder that's like junior, mid to senior to staff to whatever. And then company B wants to hire from that company, and they're like, well, okay, if you're joining, you're going to join at the staff level or whatever. And then all these things create so much rigid structure around, like, are you on an IC track, or are you on a management track, or are you leveled as SE2 at this company versus SE3 at this company, whatever. And sort of what happens is, as an industry, we end up like literally putting boxes around people. We're like, okay, out of the grid and graph of the entire company, you are here. So like pigeonhole, here you go. And so we were very deliberate about hiring generalists because, especially the early team, the thesis was like smart people will just figure stuff out, and AI will enable the stuff that you're not a specialist in yet. And so that's been a pretty big unlock for us as well. And so like how we kind of think about things is that with AI, a smart person can be maybe like 80% good at most things. Like generally speaking, you can do something in an area you haven't done something before. And if that's true, then it's on the individual or the team to figure out where to chase that last 20%. And so obviously there's some areas where, you'll know this, where that last 20% is actually more like the last 200%. Like that's where actually all the work is. But it means we can cover a lot of ground very quickly. It means that one person can carry something end to end to a good degree. And so we cut down a lot of communication and a lot of overhead that's normally associated with needing lots of people. And then we just choose where do we want to take things from 80 to 100. And that's where people's like individual specialisms come into play.
Okay, I get it. Just that, when we were talking about that, I was like, still like the product, I don't know, is used by millions of people, I'm guessing. And just customer support, you would be like, how do you do it? And so I'm just amazed, by this kind of companies that are managing to structure themselves and scale at the pace they decide to go with, and not just because the market is telling them to hire 50 people right now, or your investors and so on.
Yeah, I mean, support is an area where we recognized as early as we could, I think, with the amount of bandwidth and brain space we had to allocate to solve different problems. I think we recognized as early as we could sort of that we should scale up more there. But I think there was no world in hindsight where like we could have done more, and like we could have been doing things quicker. And so like, for sure, we scaled up support like earlier than I think we anticipated, but that was important to get people in there as well. So actually we're quite AI forward with how we try to solve support, but we also have like an incredible human support team as well that basically back up the AI and also are there on hand when people need it. And community is another area as well where we invested in that quite early, and I don't think we were quite prepared for like how much it would take for our user scale. Our user scale just grew so exponentially that also scaling community alongside that was kind of another unexpected challenge.
I can imagine. And talking about the job titles, because I love the fact that you talked about this. On your LinkedIn, it says member of the design staff and not just something else.
Yeah.
And so how is the design staff today in general at Lovable? And how do you see it growing?
Yeah, I mean, we have probably around 4 or 5 different sub-teams that just have individual charters. And so, for example, one team works on what we call our core loop, which is essentially you're talking to AI and you're trying to achieve your goal within that sort of cycle of repeatedly talking to AI. And we have another team that looks at more like life cycle things. So some recent examples might be connecting to custom domains, like we spoke about before, or we also shipped like collaboration features recently, and that team looked at that. Okay. And so each designer is basically embedded in those teams. Okay. And like job number one is make sure that these teams are performing and can achieve their goals. And so you're the point person for, carrying features end to end and supporting them and fixing bugs and iterating on the user experience in this area or whatever. But at the same time, we collaborate a lot on like almost everything. And so we're trying to find this balance of having individual ownership and autonomy per charter for each team, but also collaborating a lot so that, the product feels like it's coming from a singular place as well. Okay. But very much trying to push this idea of individual empowerment. And then the kind of design team collaboration happens when that individual puts their hand up and, recognizes that either their solution would get better by collaborating, or that they might be doing something that feels like it's coming from a separate team. Okay. And so in which case, it might even be something really simple like tone of voice in microcopy. Like we'll just come up for air and be like, actually, are we talking about things the same way? Or like, how do we normalize this so that, our users shouldn't have to think about, what teams we have. They should just experience Lovable, basically.
Okay. And talking about collaboration, how do you involve your users? Because I saw your LinkedIn post as well, and I sent it to you on a screenshot like on WhatsApp, because you tried to get some attention from people using Lovable on mobile, and you got a lot of attention. Yeah. So what's your process in general, and how do you see it evolving? Because when it's used by so many people, you definitely want to involve the users in the crafting of the experience.
Yeah, I mean, this has evolved a lot for us. So we update Lovable probably 30 to 50 times a day. Okay. Maybe even more, like over 50 times a day. And we used to be a little bit loose in terms of we would rapidly iterate things, improve things, fix them, and just try and repeat that cycle as often as possible. And like that was the best way for us to build the first version of our product. But now that we've reached this level of scale, it's very easy to like accidentally break someone's workflow, or even just moving something. Even if you've found a better solution and you move a button from like, I don't know, one area to the other, we know that it can break someone's workflow. And so what we're trying to do is figure out these kind of focus groups of giving people early access to something we're thinking about, and then try and build 100% conviction that it's better than what we had before. And so we want to default to like building in the open as much as possible. Like we just think it's the best way to build products. And so we're playing at the moment with like trying to figure out how do we create these little subgroups that can try things early. These people are super excited because they get to try things out before they get rolled out. And we are super grateful because we get really good signal and really good feedback on stuff that's work in progress. So that's the idea there. But I don't think we're quite nailing it yet. Like it's a little bit difficult to manage, and
still like 6 months in the market. So
yeah.
For now, it's okay.
Yeah.
We only have 5 minutes left, and I was looking at my phone, but that's okay. We're going to have to do an episode number 2 in 6 months, and
Sure.
maybe the company is going to be different.
Yeah.
Definitely. The last 2 questions I wanted to ask you. The first one is, what do you love the most about your job in general?
I think it's genuinely infectious. So I had this kind of personal moment with LLMs around a year and a half ago, where I basically started building these little mini tools for myself in my own workflows. And they could do so much for me that I just kind of had this like penny drop moment that like, this is the future. Like, we're not going to sit at computers and like, manually input every single character in a document, or as a designer, I'm not going to sit there and, come up with the cross-platform design with like every single state on every single platform and so on and so forth. And so like just working on, something that does things that can do so much for people is just completely infectious. And in a lot of ways, so I mean, I've been building tech for about 20 years now.
Okay.
And a lot of what my job feels like is it feels like I'm basically codifying myself. And so, there's so many like kind of best practices, learnings or whatever that, when I've been managing like larger design teams or whatever, I'm, trying to coach, junior or earlier career designers into like improving their craft. And I've been doing that for years. Whereas now I'm basically like coaching or teaching the AI the same things. And it's basically like my contribution to Lovable is basically figuring out how do I create the AI version of myself and put that into Lovable. And then when people use Lovable, when they create apps or they create websites or they create their own projects, they have, the experience of, a couple of decades of design experience. And so that's so infectious and interesting in so many different ways.
Okay.
Like when you're doing that day to day.
I can see the passion. If you can share like 1 or 2, 3, and whatever you want, Lovables that you created, apps and that you love, and yeah.
I mean, there's some that are like impressive commercially, where people are building, they've managed to get up to, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month in recurring revenue with their own projects, or they've managed to raise venture funding after like building a prototype or an MVP and getting their first users. That's really great. But the use cases that sort of warm me inside, I think the most, is when people are building their own personal software. And so we have a couple of users who are neurodivergent or neuroatypical. And like, let's say they have like ADHD, and every single calendar app, every single notes app they've ever used their entire life has never worked for them. And so they've been able to create, their own version of a calendar app that finally works for their own brain and things like that. And so it's those stories and those users who I think they like profoundly like strike me with like, this is how much computing is going to change.
Okay, I see. And the last question I have is, seeing all those design tools that we have today and all of the possibilities that we can do with AI, and specifically talking about design and how do you design stuff, how do you embrace this design wave with AI, and how does it impact your job? Do you feel like it's stealing stuff from you, or do you feel like you can be more creative? How do you see it?
I mean, for me, it's a tool. I read a tweet the other day that I'll kind of paraphrase, which was something like, AI makes bad designers quicker and it makes good designers better. And so I think there's still a lot of onus on you. And so I don't subscribe to the sort of it's like taking things from you or anything like that. I think a lot of people might use that as a bit of an excuse, like in some ways. So I'm here for it. The way that I see it is just that we're not going to put AI back into a box. And so in this new world, I think the job is to figure out how to maximize your own personal usage of it. And so for me, as somebody who's building with AI on the bleeding edge of it every day, that means being a bit of an AI maximalist. And so I'll try to use it for as many things as possible, even in my personal life, just to try to get a new understanding of, what I can and can't do with it. And so, yeah, for me, like super, super empowering.
Okay, nice. Well, thanks a lot for sharing all of that, Nad. Really appreciate it. It was condensed, but I'm sure we covered a lot of topics. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Pleasure to chat. And yeah, we could do a part 2 and compare how things have changed as well
definitely.
in the future as
Yeah,
well. So
sounds good.
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks.